Hey there, members of the Night Crew, and folks who just love horror. Welcome to the Night Crew podcast, where shadows breathe and monsters listen. This is the podcast where we get cozy with the creepy, the frightening, and the just plain undead. I'm your host, Brad Ricks. As usual, a few quick reminders. Night Crew 3 Hunting Ground comes out July 3rd. It's on pre-order. Get it now. Also, Dead Mountain is now on pre-order as well. It comes out in October. Lastly, join my Facebook group, Brad Ricks' Book Crypt, to stay up to date on what I'm doing and just have some fun in there. On today's episode, I sat down with horror author Elizabeth DeVecchi. She's the author of A Whisper in the Dark, Twist of the Lens, and the upcoming The Shadow Beside Her. We talk about what led her to be a writer, inspiration from her own personal fears, and her writing process. Into the virtual studio we go. All right, today I'm thrilled to have Elizabeth DeVecchi joining me. Elizabeth, how are you this evening?
I am doing great. It's great to be here.
Awesome. I'm glad to have you on. I know we had to reschedule once, but it's fine. It happens. End of school year was busy time.
Yeah, we got this last week of finals, so.
All right. Well, we had last week, my stepdaughter graduated, and so she graduated from high school. So it was busy time, and now summer is upon us. So
yes, it is.
All right. So I always start off with the wonderful question that a lot of us writers get all the time, which is all that, tell me about your writing career. How long you've been doing it? What was your first book? What made you want to become a writer?
So I've wanted to become a writer for a very long time, probably since I knew that was a possibility. But life kind of got in the way, and we moved a lot. And I've got 3 kids and with collapsible lungs, but that's another story. And so I didn't get around to it. And then I was walking my dog, Dante, who I have a photo cut out of somewhere in here. And he suddenly, he's a quirky rescue dog, and suddenly he wouldn't go near storm sewers, and to the point of stopping in front of oncoming traffic because he didn't want to approach a storm sewer. And it kind of gave me an idea, and I went with it, and which is why I have the cutout of him. And that was my first book, A Whisper in the Dark.
Nice.
And that was 2024. So yeah.
And it's always interesting, those, what becomes a little spark of creativity or inspiration that, it's just I always tell people it's the tiniest little thing. And then that just somehow explodes into 60, 70, 80,000 words. Yeah.
Well, and then my son's like, slow down, Mom. Cause then I started writing for anthologies and another book. And I was like, it was like opening a dam.
I've described it the same ways. Like the first time you start doing it, it's like floodgates. And
exactly.
It's once the creativity kind of starts and you rev that engine, it's really hard to stop it if you even want to.
It is.
I don't know why you
No,
want to.
I don't want to. And the cool thing is that because I waited so long, I think the stuff that you would write when you're younger is less mature anyways. I'm kind of glad that I waited, though I do regret not starting earlier. But I also started when I had grown kids. My youngest is 17. And so my oldest was going into film and just graduated from college and does book trailers for me. The other two helped me with Canva because I had no clue how to use that at all. So it's like I had my crew built in, which was nice.
That's good. And it is, that was one of the things, when you first start writing, you're like, oh, well, you just put words on the page and it's all done. It's like, no.
That's the easy part.
Right? There's a whole world after that. And I know between Canva, I started learning all the Adobe Suite stuff, and I've been playing with Premiere, and I do this in Audition, Adobe Audition, Photoshop. I'm like,
you're way ahead of me, Brad.
Well, to me, it was like, all of that stuff was like, I didn't know I was going to need all that stuff to be a writer.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank goodness for my kids, because seriously, I am not the most technologically inclined. They love to tease me about it. They'll just walk around and be like, Mom, just press this. Sorry.
Well, I'm not very artistic at all. And outside of music is kind of my artistic,
I heard about
venture.
that.
Yeah, there's rumors. don't believe them. But, when it comes to like the graphic design stuff, I'm like, yeah, I don't know any of that stuff. I'm like, fortunately, I've been, I love cover designers. They are the best people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll take what they have and put it into Adobe or Canva or whatever. I'm like, oh, good. Now here's how I'm making my bookmarks.
Right. Yeah, no, that's wonderful because, and my oldest is also, she's an artist too. And so is the middle one. The middle one also makes puppets. I got to figure out a way to get that in somehow. So, but I think Ben Farthing already did that. So
I was fixing to say, yeah, talk to Ben.
Yeah, no, there are some creepy puppets in this house. And sometimes I'll find them like, strewn out there like their bodies. I'm like, okay, can we put the puppets back in the room, please?
So you've always wanted to be a writer, but we kind of waited till waited a number of years to, the kids to get older. And did you have throughout the, through the early years, did you have short stories or things like that you kind of wrote or some kind of a creative outlet during that time?
I have notebooks full of stories. And the funny thing was, I'm like, I was somebody asked me why I got into horror and I was trying to figure that out. And then I went back and looked at the notebooks and I was writing like kitty horror, the whole family dies in a fire. I'm like, oh, I did not realize that I was writing that dark when I was a child. It is. So
you mentioned the why horror. So let's kind of talk about that. So why did you, besides the fact that the doggy wouldn't eat it, go past the sewer? So why horror?
I think I was a total scaredy cat. Just full disclosure, I wouldn't go near the fast rides at the parks and stuff, the roller coasters, absolutely not. Wouldn't watch horror movies except that when I was 8 years old, we were supposed to go see, like a family friend was taking us to the drive-in. And they usually have like 2 screens at least, and they have screen A and screen B. Well, we were supposed to go to screen B, which was something like, Herbie and the Love Bugs, something like that. And instead we veered over to screen A, and I was trying to remember what the movie was because it did kind of traumatize me. I'm like, there's like this dummy and the ventriloquist and it's scary. And then I said, I must have been like 12 or something. No, we found it and I was 8 because that was the movie Magic. And that came out in 1978. So I was 8 years old. And then we went back to the wrong screen again and saw Phantasm and The Fog and all that. And at the drive-in, it's even scarier because you are out kind of in the middle of nowhere and you're just inside a car. You're not inside a building. And I think it was a little bit, how cathartic, like, wow, I got through that. And then my parents had this secret library, which wasn't that big of a secret because that's also where they kept the dog food. And guess who fed the dog? And so it was kind of in the furnace room in the basement. And there they had all the Stephen King and they had The Omen and Jaws. The first one I read was Jaws. And then I refused to jump off our little sailboat ever again. So it was kind of like, it became kind of I'm a scaredy cat in real life, but hey, these people have it worse than I do. And look, I read the book and I'm still alive kind of thing. So I think that's why I got into horror. And writing is cathartic.
Writing is very cathartic. So being a scaredy cat in real life, have you incorporated any of your real life fears into your books?
Absolutely. All the time. I mean, my thought is if I am afraid of it, chances are there are some other people out there who are afraid of it as well. And so use it. Yeah. I'm less of a scaredy cat now. And I even go on roller coasters now. Like I went on the Hulk, I don't know how many times, but that was because we were living in Florida and people had sold us a house full of termites. And we ended up losing 3 entire outer walls of our home right as COVID broke out. So we're living in plywood. It was hard. And you can't I would wait for power tools to come on and just, Well, it turns out on a roller coaster, you can scream and nobody calls the police. So I found out that was also very cathartic. So now I'm in.
Nice. So I feel like if you had after having a house full of termites, there should be a bug story somewhere in an anthology that you're submitting to.
Okay, there is something I'm working on that the people that sold us the house don't end up very happy in life. But yeah, it does mention, because that was like a real life nightmare. For about a month during swarming season, where are you in Texas? You're near Dallas,
Texas.
right?
Central Texas. So
Central, okay.
A little north of Austin.
Do you have the horrible termites there, or?
Not terribly bad, but
I think it's mostly in Houston, right? Yeah. But they have swarming season where you have to turn off all your lights and hope that one of your neighbors doesn't, because they will all go towards and I'm talking like enough swarm that they stop soccer games for it and everybody runs for their car. So since we had them in the walls for about a month, every night they would shoot out of the walls, make a new hole and shoot out of the walls, like thousands of them. And then we'd have somebody grab the plastic, somebody grab the tape and try to kind of seal them off. And then we'd go around vacuuming up the dead bodies, because they mostly just die once they get in there, unless they find a place to start a new home. So it was a nightmare situation for sure.
That sounds like a nightmare. I'm sitting here thinking, new fear unlocked.
Yes, not on my bingo card.
I do like that you're writing a story to kind of get even, note to anyone out there listening. If you do wrong to a horror writer, you will end up a victim.
Absolutely.
You do become cannon fodder at that time, at that point. Yes.
Yes, you do. And I think it's fair. So it's only fair.
It's only fair. True.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about your writing process. Are you more of a pantser or a plotter or somewhere in between?
So I'm a little bit in between, because I kind of plot it out in my head. I don't write it down. I don't outline, but I do, before I start writing, generally know the whole story. And I like to, about halfway through the book, I like to write the ending, which might change, of course, because you never know when a character is going to like grab a gun or something, right?
Right.
But I like to write the end, because one of my biggest pet peeves when I'm reading a book that I absolutely love is when like I'm really hooked by this book, and then you get towards the end and then it all got resolved at the end, and you can tell that the author was just tired of writing the book. And so I want to try to not do that and write the ending, and I can go back and change it later. And then I just write on actually Word, or I don't use like a program, but I was on with Cassandra's class, and one of the kids asked, they're college students, but one of them asked, I know, they're kids to me. So one of them asked if I did, what programs and stuff, if I plan stuff out. And I said, I write a character page generally, because one time I accidentally switched the character's eyes colors, and I caught it in time, because, it's like 2 books later, I don't remember. So I have character sheets where I'll write down eye color, hair, what do they like to do, kind of like almost like a dating profile. And he asked me, what program do you use for that? And I was like, so a sheet of computer paper and a pencil. And
so
I
this
got
program
that
is called
look.
Analog.
Exactly. This program's called I'm a little more mature than you, a little older. Yeah. Is what it is, right?
Well, I've had to do the same thing, like for the Night Crew series, to make sure that I keep the character straight. I'm 3 books in. It's going to be 5 total, and so I've got 2 more they're writing. So I have little character sheets, and I do all my stuff in Scrivener, and with it, I was able to create a Night Crew template, and it has all the character sketches in there. And then when I go to start the next one, I just copy that template, and all the character sketches come along with me. Yeah, see, that would be
cool. Right now I just learned Canva, Brad. give me a minute. I can't learn another one. But no, I have a binder with this is the book. These are the characters. This one has curly hair, likes roses.
Yeah.
Like I said, it kind of looks like a dating profile.
Well, and it helps because you kind of get to sit and learn your characters a little bit before really writing them, because you don't want to start the book and your character is nice and timid, and then later on it's like they're brassy and you're like that, but with no kind of catalyst to it. You just just in writing, you just kind of forgot which of
exactly. So, or I think I went from like hazel to brown eyes or brown to hazel or something like that. I was like, oh, that's not good. And went back and caught it and changed it before it got published. So, which, maybe nobody will notice, but I will know. So.
Someone will notice. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody's going to notice.
Somebody's going to notice. It'll end up as a post in the psychological thriller readers group. And then,
I can't believe she did that.
Yeah, I know. And
I'm just going to say color
1-star reviews and.
Yeah.
All right. How would you describe your writing style?
try to get it all down before somebody yells mom and I have to go take care of somebody's problem. That is my current
I believe that's called
style.
frantic.
Yes, frantic. That is my writing style. And get out of the house and go to the coffee shop or whatever so I can't see the laundry that needs to be done. Yes, that is my current writing style. So, and I will stick with that for now.
So let's talk about a few of your books. So, I know you kind of mentioned your first one, so Whisper in the Dark, which I've read that one. I'm a fan of it. It was a great book. So you kind of mentioned a little bit about the inspiration for it, but what is like your typical elevator pitch for that one?
For that one, my usual elevator pitch goes something like the greatest achievement of any monster is convincing its victim that it needs them, because it is kind of a codependency type situation-ish. So, and there is a creature comes back. It's actually earlier than Whisper in the Dark, but the creature is also in the third book coming out. So you get to learn a little bit more about the creatures.
Awesome. Yeah. And I know that's one thing that as I was reading, I remember it's a creature. I mean, it is a kind of a creature feature.
Yes.
But it's a different kind. It's not like your normal kind of, creature. It is very unique and, original in its creatureness.
It's kind of like a moral gray too. Like it's surviving and it's kind of helping the people that it uses to attract the people that it wants to eat. So so there's a little bit of gray in there.
Gotcha. Well, and then, so the next one, or the latest one you had come out, which was in December. So A Twist of the Lens. So the little Amazon tagline on it is a dark past, a haunted mind, and a young girl caught in the crosshairs. So I haven't had a chance to read it. I know it is in my TBR pile, which is never ending. And if it was physical pile, it would kill me. So tell me a little bit about A Twist of the Lens.
So that one's a little bit harder to talk about because it's very twisty and I'm always afraid I'm going to give something away. But it's kind of can you outrun your past, combine and find redemption, combined with, are those voices in my head mine or are they actually somebody else's type story? So, and there's a cool, like that, for that one, I always fall down rabbit holes. And for that one, there's a motorcycle journey from the Midwest to Colorado, which is where I currently am. And so I fell down into the 1952 Indian Roadmaster bike rabbit hole with the suicide shift. And so I'm not allowed to ride motorcycles because I take a blood thinner and those two don't really particularly mesh. But I was telling my husband, like, can we just get one and put it in the garage? They look so cool. But so there's a journey, like an actual physical journey and a mental journey. And then the girl is a niece who falls into enemy hands. We'll put it that way.
Gotcha. So it's A Twist of the Lens, which you said is very twisty. I mean, it does make sense. You did put it in the title.
Yes.
So that's definitely one I have to kind of bump up in my list.
And both of those started as short stories. Both Whisper in the Dark and A Twist of the Lens started as short stories. And then I was like, hey, I can do more with these. So.
Gotcha. Then coming in July, you have one that's currently on pre-order, and it's called The Shadow Beside Her. So tell me a little bit about that one that's going to be, coming up here in about a month or so.
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah, a month.
I know. Time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah. I know it does fly. I was looking at my calendar like, I got to get on that because usually I do a release party, like a physical release party. Sadly, the brewery where I did my release party is closed. And then somebody just let me know that the place where I used to these like really cool cookies with the cover on them that were really, really good by a baker, and they closed. So I'm in a bit of a scramble trying to arrange things for the release of this next book. But so that is historical horror. And I had a wonderful time research. I mean, it takes place. I needed a place where something horrible happened. And I am also Italian. And I love Italy. So I wanted to incorporate Italy. And I found this event that I had never read about, didn't realize happened in Montesole. And so I used that background for the character, who's a little girl who is trying to escape the horrors of war. She loves comic books. She's like completely obsessed with Wonder Woman, with those early Wonder Woman comics. She loves her family. The grandfather has a farm kind of out in the country. And so it's war, but it's also the creature. And again, we're kind of in areas of gray where who's the good guy, who's the bad guy type area. So yeah, that one I'm looking for. And that one I fell into the rabbit hole of the 1940s cameras and how did you develop the film and stuff like that. So now I'm hunting down the camera to find my own. So yeah.
Now you said the creature in that one is the same kind of creature that's in A Whisper in the Dark?
Yes. It's kind of, so in A Whisper in the Dark, one of the elements is that this creature ends up in the suburbs. But it's really a creature that feeds on situations that are more warlike. So it's a little bit of an origin story for the creature too.
Interesting. So yeah, I'll have to add that one to my list. Sweet Lord.
And I'm like, man, I should write more historical stuff. So I'm considering adding some historical flavor to the next book I'm working on too.
See, historical fiction is fun, and I've dabbled at times, like in the Night Crew books, like I kind of sometimes mention some of the historical stuff, but I'm a big History Channel buff, and so I enjoy all of those, and I feel like there's so much stuff you can do in history, and just to pull from, and it's very fertile ground.
Yes. And I got to add a lot of Italian in that one. So I was telling my mother-in-law, like, you'll actually be able to read some of this one in the original version.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you find is the most difficult part of writing a book?
I don't know. I feel like there's always kind of this hump that's around like 10,000 words where you feel like this is never going to be a book. But for me right now, it's really the time. With everything else, like I said, I do have 3 kids. They have had health issues and a house and everything else to try to figure out, the high school thing. So for me right now, the most challenging part is, when you get the inspiration, it's like a lot of times it'll happen when you're driving the car, when you can't sit down and physically write when you really want to. That is my biggest challenge right now. So my husband's like, why don't you write from 4 to 6? I'm like, that's not how it works.
It doesn't work that way.
No, it does not work that. He is very scientific and very, everything is in order. And I'm like, that is not how our minds work at all. So yeah.
Yeah. No, it would be nice if it was, but
wouldn't it?
But yeah, no, it doesn't quite work that way.
Mm-hmm.
I do find like I've kind of gotten into a rhythm that, every morning I get up and get in front of the computer and write. And, in doing that, I've kind of started to kind of train myself to be able things are kind of just, this is the time you're supposed to write. But even then there are times when you sit there and just kind of stare at a page and like, I have typed 5 words.
Yeah. Or I'll start writing and then I'll hear that.
Words.
That sound the cat makes when he's going to cough up a hairball or something. I'm like, well, there we go. But I have to clear. That's why I started making these guys, these little crocheted krakens, because I found that instead of looking at a video or going onto the computer where you can get sucked in and hours just disappear, I'll make one of these guys a day before I start writing. So it takes me now from start to finish. I can do one in about 45 minutes. And at the end, I have a Kraken, which I give out at conferences and stuff. But it's something that while you're doing the hand movements, your brain starts spinning. And I think of different ideas and things that I can write. So that helps a little.
Yeah, it's good to have something to almost a distraction, but somewhere in the back of your head, things are still kind of churning, although,
yes. Yes.
So I always love this question because it's like picking your favorite kid. But of all the books you've written, which one do you say is your favorite?
But I don't know. They're so different one from the other. Right now, I'm going to say it was The Shadow Beside Her, simply because I got to show my love for Italy and the culture. And that was really, it felt really good to do that, to kind of dive into that culture and go back in time. So right now I'll say that one, but don't tell the other books. They'll be very jealous.
I'll make sure they don't hear the podcast. It's fine.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Do you read your book reviews? And if so, how do you handle the negative ones?
I have to admit, I do occasionally, but I try to read them as kind of looking for maybe things I can improve on, or oh, maybe I missed that. Now, there was a review that made me giggle, and it was because it was a guy who, so you read A Whisper in the Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Greg?
No, not off the top of my head.
No, right? Because he's not an important character.
I was like, oh,
he's like
so.
The husband who's never there. But somebody was upset that I didn't write more about Greg. Right. I know, right? What? So,
it's
yeah.
Like, I really connected with this one character that you mentioned twice. Can you write more about them?
Yeah.
How did you connect to a character that I mentioned twice?
Exactly. Not only, but I changed his name part of the way through the book because I think his name was Bill, but I already had a Ben. And so it was a little bit, yeah. Just don't ever go and say change all. That was something I learned the hard way because when I changed all the bills to Greg's, I had someone paying their Greg and then the curtains were Gregoing in the wind. I'm like, really?
Yep. So in the Night Crew books, on the first one, when I first was writing it, the main character's name was Matt instead of Mike.
Okay. Right.
But towards the end, I was like, no, I think I'm going to go with Mike. And so I did a find and replace, all Matts to Mike. And then, things were micering instead of mattering.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what happened to me. And I almost submitted
I was like,
that.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Like I did that and suddenly, spell check was just like, all these words are wrong. I'm like, what words are wrong? And I'm like, crap.
And then you're like, I didn't write that. Yeah. I made that same mistake with Greg.
Yeah. And changing Matt to Mike. Yeah. The same kind of thing. It's all over the place. There's a lot of words that have MATT in them.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Same thing with Bill, BIL.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well. We live and we learn, right?
Something mattered. It suddenly became Mikier.
Mikers.
Yeah. It was funny stuff. So who would you say are your biggest literary influences?
Well, I have to go for Stephen King because he was, who wrote Jaws? Oh my gosh, who wrote Jaws?
Peter Benchley.
That was the first horror book I read, and having grown up by the ocean, that obviously it traumatized me quite a bit. But then I don't know, I may have actually found, was it Audrey Rose after that and The Omen? But once I found the Stephen King books, I was completely hooked. So yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta go with the King.
Yeah, that's usually like my answer to when people are like, why do you write horror? I'm like, I started reading Stephen King way earlier than I was supposed to.
Exactly. Yep.
Like way earlier than it was age appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
So, and yeah, it is. I actually looked it up just because I said Peter Benchley and I was like, wait, am I right with that? And I actually was. I was like, hey, what do you know?
Yep.
Strangest things just kind of pop out of the little filing cabinet every so often.
Yeah. And I will say the one thing that because our Florida years were not very pleasant given the whole termite situation.
I can imagine.
But one of the things I missed, and I had to be out of town when it happened, was every year, I guess on Pensacola Beach, they do a showing of Jaws on the beach. And you watch it, but you watch it in a floaty.
In the water?
Yes. And I was out of town. I was so upset that I didn't get to, and then COVID happened, so we didn't get to do it anyway. So
I always hear about that happening. I wasn't sure where it was. So it's in Pensacola Beach.
That's one. I've heard they do it in other places too, but they probably do it in Cape Cod, I would imagine.
Oh, I'd imagine.
I just was so terrified when I was younger that I would never have done that if they had.
I don't think I would do it now.
No, I don't. Yeah, I wanted to do it on Pensacola Beach, but we saw hammerhead come fairly close to the pier, and I collected a lot of shark teeth off that beach, so I know they're there.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain I would not do that then.
Yeah, but not so much great whites. Those are, Cape Cod and where I was in New England, so yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, so I started the Night Crew podcast as a spinoff to my own series, The Night Crew, which is all about monster hunters. And,
Yes.
one of the things I always like to ask all the authors that I interview is, what is your favorite monster? So, Elizabeth, what is your favorite monster?
So I'm going to have to go with the monster that helps me write, and that is the kraken. And those pictures of like the giant tentacles pulling down these huge sailing ships have always impressed me. So I'll go with the kraken.
The kraken. So are you a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea fan?
Yes. Yes, I am. Yes, I can't remember when they made us read that book, but I really enjoyed it. That was one of the books. Now, Moby Dick, not so much. I still have not made it all the way through. Moby Dick is actually my white whale. I've tried several times, but yeah.
I read Moby Dick once, and I don't plan on reading it again.
Yeah.
The movie's fine.
Yeah.
And so
Cliff Notes are good too.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I don't plan on reading it again. I have it in a nice big leather-bound edition that's sitting in my bookcase downstairs. But I don't plan on reading that one again. But 20,000 Leagues I did enjoy it. Anytime I hear kraken, awesome. Like that's one of the first ones that comes to mind. I know it's like a giant squid, but that's more than most likely a lot of the seafaring stories of the kraken is probably something like a giant squid or something like that.
Probably. And I like soundtracks a lot. And I love the Kraken music that they have for Pirates of the Caribbean, the series. When the Kraken comes out, the music is fantastic.
That's in the second and third one, isn't it? Is that when they have the Kraken? Yeah, because it's Davy Jones and
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. You have any stories that you've incorporated the Kraken?
Working on something that is, just went through final edit, and actually the Kraken is crocheted, but it contains something like, maybe a soul or something. So, yeah. So
it's not like a big seafaring kind of adventure.
No. But I have been thinking I probably should do something like that as well, because I do enjoy doing that kind of research and seeing where it came from and incorporating things like that. So.
Yeah, I know. Like of course, my favorite is vampires, which is why I write about vampires. Yes. And so it's funny from a research standpoint, and just being able to, it's fun. It's not, it's not even work. It's like I'm just researching vampires, and then I'm going to write about them. It's fun.
Yeah.
So just be careful going down rabbit holes when you start wanting to write a book on krakens and starting to go down when you start diving down that rabbit hole, because you'll have fun with it and you'll get lost.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time. I'll look at the time. Okay, now I'm going to start writing. I'm like, oh shoot, I got to go pick up my son because 3 hours just went by and I didn't even realize it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm such a research nut that, I started a podcast where I talk about monsters.
There you go.
I have whole episodes that are, when I'm not doing the author interviews, it's all the scripted episodes where I'm actually, I've done all the research into all these different creatures. And
I love monsters, like the pods from and the creature from the Black Lagoon. And I love the monsters.
Yeah, I'm huge monster nut. So, and like I said, and research, and it's so fun to do. And I do have to at some point stop myself and be like, all right, this is where I'm going to stop and actually write, because I have got to do that too.
Yes. And what's big here? Now I'm in Colorado, so it's all Bigfoot.
It's all Bigfoot.
Yes. It is all Bigfoot. We went to the zoo. I don't remember what the occasion was. And Bigfoot walked by, like this dude dressed as Bigfoot. And we were at the zoo, and I just kind of went, Colorado.
Yeah. I know in Colorado there's a lot of Bigfoot stuff. Also up in Oregon. Oregon has is big into Bigfoot stuff as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you didn't want to pick Bigfoot then as your favorite, being up in Colorado?
No, because I have to say I spent most, or my formative years, as we say, by the ocean.
Okay, that makes sense. Gotcha. So outside of just writing and stuff, what are some of your other hobbies?
I play tennis, though last season ended rather abruptly because I tore my labrum and my hip was just completely messed up. So because that season was all, I think I had a tie break every single match. And then I went to help my parents move from a house I lived in for 50 years. So just there's a lot of stuff to box up and lift and everything. Then I flew back because they're still in Rhode Island. I flew back and then played a match the next day. And it went tie break. Then it went to a super tie break. And then I think we were about, towards the end of it, my partner said, do you want to just forfeit? And I was like, why? Why would we forfeit? And she's like, because you're not putting any weight on your left leg. So, but adrenaline masks a lot of things. And so I was like, we don't need to forfeit. And then we lost, it was so close, but we ended up losing. And then once I got off the court, I said, something doesn't feel right. The next morning I couldn't
Something
walk.
wrong here.
So, yeah. So that was the end of my season, but I have played 2 matches so far this season and it's gone well. So knock on wood.
Yeah, you definitely have to make sure you're taking care of yourself. I had last year around October timeframe. I always go all out for Halloween, and I have this huge tunnel I built over my driveway and do all that. And
I saw that. That was amazing.
So I built it one day, and then and then the next day was Halloween, and then the day after that there was a book event about 3 hours away that I was doing, and and so but I didn't want to leave the tunnel up. So the night of Halloween, after it was all over, now I'm taking it down and I'm going up and down on this ladder. And then I was driving for 3 hours to an event and then 3 hours back. And then about a couple of days later, I was like, I think I hurt my back.
Yeah. I can't move.
I had to go to the doctor, and he was like, these are muscle relaxers. I'm like, you're my friend.
Go. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I got a lot of those as well, muscle relaxers. But I have learned that there's balls that I can get to, but maybe shouldn't try for. So I'm getting much better at that. And my singles career is over. So now I just play doubles, and I have to tell myself there's another person on the court. Yeah. Let them get this one. So yeah.
Yeah, shortly after all the Halloween stuff was down, well, now it's getting close to Christmas and I have to start putting Christmas decorations up. So for that one, there was a lot of times I told the kids, I was like, hey kids, get your butt outside. You're helping me put a Christmas decoration.
Exactly. I go all out for Christmas too. And I found that we were living in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we had this really nice porch. And then it had, what's it called? Where it has kind of the arc that goes in and there's a space under the porch. And then it goes down to the beams or the posts that hold it up or the supports. And so I wanted to loop the lights over, but there wasn't really a good place to put the ladder and be safe. I ended up tying a string to a football, and then we threw it through the hole and pulled it up that way. And my husband was happy because usually I wait till he's not home before I start scaling roofs and climbing ladders. And because if he is home, he's like, get off the ladder. So, because again, I am on a blood thinner. So I get it. But, I love going all out for Christmas and Halloween too. But you have to be careful.
You got to take care of yourself, I'm realizing. And my kids, of course, were so wonderfully supportive and empathetic when they're like, you threw your back out, old man. I'm like,
yeah, I got that.
I'm like, shut up and get on the roof.
Yeah, so I got the, Mom, do you need your cane? Yes, I do. Get over here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, get a little closer. I need you to be in about a 3.5 foot range.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So any advice for aspiring authors?
I love, that is my favorite thing at conferences and book signings is when a kid or anyone who wants to be a writer comes up. The first thing I say is, if you see AI walking in the door, run the other direction because that thing will follow you forever. Yeah. And then just do it. And I think one of my biggest obstacles, and I bought a book because I'm an INFJ personality. And a friend of mine said, hey, there's a book called The INFJ Writer. And I bought it and I was like, wow, these are really the pitfalls I'm falling into. My big one was every time I opened the computer, I would start editing the stuff I already wrote. So my advice is vomit it all out onto the computer and you can go clean up the mess later because you can't edit what you don't have there. So instead of looping around continuously, and I will keep like a piece of paper next to me because again, I'm a paper pencil kind of person, but I'll keep a piece of paper next to me. And if there is a change I want to make, I will write it down so I won't forget and go back later. But my best advice is just keep going until you get to the end. And then you can go back and edit and change things and do what you want, but it becomes much easier and you have a much better chance of finishing the book. So.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You can fall into the trap. You can kind of get stuck and constantly tweaking stuff over and over that you've already written. But the worst part is though, and once you finish writing the book, you may go back and realize the stuff that you've been spending days, like trying to tweak, you may end up cutting. And, it's like definitely you can't edit. You can't do anything with something that you haven't already written. So get it down on the page first. Yes. Some people are like, well, I'm trying to get my draft really good. Think of it as like draft 0, or I've heard it be the vomit draft, or, just there's a ton of like really, really bad words, for it, and just let it be that. And don't even think of it as the actual manuscript yet.
No, I don't even show my beta reader anything until I've edited it like 3 or 4 times myself.
Right. But yeah, it has to be there before you can actually, before doing that.
Yeah. And then even if you don't feel like you can write, try to write something, because there are times where I'm like, I'm just completely blocked today, but I'll just sit down and I'll just whatever and I'll write. But then maybe I'll go back and say, hey, that actually wasn't half bad. I can use that. But if you don't write it, it's not there.
It's not there. Right. Yeah, I 100% agree. Don't keep going back and trying to sharpen something that, you're trying to sharpen a blade and you don't have the hilt yet. So just
exactly. That's a great way to say it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely agree. And it's great advice. So with that, where can my listeners learn more about you? Where can they find your books?
So actually, I have a website, which I try to tend to every once in a while. That is elizabethdevecchi.com. And then the books are all on Amazon. And I think if you go on Goodreads too, you can see anthologies that I've been in as well. And sometimes they pop up on Amazon, though I think it's a magical little elf that decides what pops up and what doesn't. I still haven't figured that out. He's not a very nice elf either, I've discovered. But they are on Amazon. And the newest one, The Shadow Beside Her, is up for pre-order now. So if you want to take a look.
Awesome.
I'd be happy.
And I'll make sure and get the links from you, and I'll put those in the show notes. That way it makes it easy for people to find you. Mm-hmm. So I'll have all that from you. And like I said, they will be in the show notes for anybody who's wanting to go learn more about Elizabeth and her writing. I definitely recommend, picking up her books. Like I said, I've read Whisper in the Dark. I haven't had a chance to get to the other ones yet, but really enjoyed it. So I'm definitely looking forward to The Shadow Beside Her, because I kind of like that creature that was in Whisper in the Dark. So I want to learn more about that. But so definitely go and pick up her books.
Thank you.
Yep. So with that, we'll go ahead and call it an evening. I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with me for a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Well, that's it for the Night Crew podcast and my conversation with Elizabeth DeVecchi. I have links to where you can find Elizabeth in the show notes. Follow her on all the socials and pick up her books. So if you had a good time, make sure to follow the show, share it with a friend, and leave a rating. Hopefully 5 stars. If you want updates on my writing, you can follow me on Facebook and my reader group, Brad Ricks' Book Crypt. You can find copies of my novels wherever you like to buy books. But if you hop over to my website, bradricks.com, you can purchase signed copies of any of my novels and get yourself one of my Night Crew podcast t-shirts. I'm Brad Ricks, reminding you to stay out of graveyards after dark, question people who don't show up in mirrors, and remember that even us horror authors can be scared. Until next time, keep your curtains drawn, your sense of humor sharp, and your blood inside your body. Thanks for listening.